I was thinking, Paul, about our lives, and sometimes we get what I call knots in our life. Life can be a bit smooth like this, and then suddenly we get knots in our lives. They can be a knot of poor health, maybe a work related issue, or maybe it's moving home, stress, but we all get knots in our lives. And I think when we get these knots in our lives, I think it's something that we have to leave with the Lord and leave it with Him. I mean, sometimes we try to work things out ourselves, and God does give us common sense, and sometimes we can. But there are times when we just have to leave things with the Lord to sort out. The phrase leaving it in God's hands comes from Matthew 6, verses 25 to 24, where Jesus encourages us not to be anxious about anything, but by prayer and petition with thanksgiving. And it's trusting God to work out those knots because our understanding is limited in comparison to the Lord's. So we can either try and take control or let God take control because He knows the best course of action for our lives. And I think we have to give those worries and concerns to Him. At some point, we know that the Lord will answer, and those knots will untie themselves. They won't be knots anymore because the Lord has dealt with those knots in our life. So it's something we have to leave with Him. We have to leave those knots at the feet of Jesus to sort out.
And the good thing is, God is always bigger than the problems that we have. However big our problem is, the Lord is capable of dealing with it and untying that knot.
Yeah. And I know, Paul, that you've always said to me, God has a way of working things out.
Yes.
And it's so true. We don't
Yeah.
have to do anything. I've experienced that in my own life where I've been thinking, how can I deal with this situation? And yet God has wonderfully sorted it out. He didn't need my help, but He's just sorted it out. So I've proved that for myself as well. So, yeah, God does have a way of working those knots out in our life. What object did you
Yeah.
bring today?
Okay, well, I bought some fruit. It's actually a pear.
Oh, nice
Yeah.
pear there, lovely
Yeah, it
and
looks nice,
rosy.
doesn't it? Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. And because I do love fruit. I love to eat all different sorts of fruit. There's something about nice in a house, coming into a house with a good bowl of fruit or a bowl of lemons. They say if you want to sell your house, have a big bowl of lemons there, don't they? Because it makes
Mm.
the house look nice and smell fresh as
Oh,
well.
it really does. Yeah.
And the Lord, He wants fruit, just like we like fruit. The Lord also likes fruit, and that fruit ought to grow in our own hearts, the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self control. We need to let that fruit grow in our hearts. And of course, often we get problems so that the fruit may grow. We get pruned, don't we?
Yeah.
And a tree, when it's in the ground, even they say that when the wind blows against it, it makes the roots grip harder to
Um,
the soil underneath and get a real good grip there so that it can get the best out of the fruit, which is the object of a fruit tree. We fertilize them, don't we?
we
So,
do.
so that the fruit may grow. And the Lord comes along, and some things in our lives seem like they're hard problems, and yet they do produce fruit. I think there's a scripture, it says, suffering produces. And it's true, it does. And we thank God that the Lord knows how to get the best fruit out of us, for He's the greatest gardener.
Yeah. I think sometimes, when you talked about pruning, we sometimes think, ouch, that hurt, because it's not nice, is it, when you feel you're being pruned yourself? But something good does come from it. Like you say, we learn from it and it does produce good fruit. So I think there's some really good points there that you just mentioned. Yeah.
And also, fertilizer, if you think about it, it's a waste product, isn't it? We
Yeah.
don't really want that around us. I don't want all this stuff. And the Lord will use it, though. That's the great thing. The things we think, oh, that's not very nice.
Mm.
Yet somehow God is able to bring good from those bad things. And He's capable of doing that, and He does do it. And so it's like us being fertilized so that we produce better fruit.
Yeah, for sure.